And we continue at 106 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios, where you almost always split your aids. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, I want to encourage everyone that hasn't already to subscribe to the podcast of this show on the KABC app or Apple Podcasts app, because in case you weren't here yesterday, it was 24 hours ago we discovered Hacksaw Katie Porter.
Paul!
Oh, that makes me nostalgic for 1980s WWF. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is a candidate for the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, running against incumbent Holly Mitchell. You can find her online at DaphneBradford.com. Daphne Bradford, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by, because I think you're in a very interesting race, a race that could really determine the direction of the county. A lot of votes, particularly all through COVID-19 and other contentious issues, have been decided on 3-2 votes, with Holly Mitchell voting to do things like keep the mask mandates on the books for a very long period of time and giving Barbara Ferrer as much power as she wants. They voted to close down Men's Central Jail, those sorts of things. And if elected, you really could be a fresh voice, a fresh perspective to put the county back on the right path and bring us back to good government, law and order, those sorts of things. And there's no bigger issue facing the county of Los Angeles right now than the race for district attorney, where George Gascon, the incumbent district attorney who's running for re-election, has consistently been a voice that has supported criminals and really has not been interested at all in listening to the victims of crime. Recently, there have been 2 cases that have been particularly bad. One where a 13-year-old girl in Harbor City was assaulted by an adult for no apparent reason. The girl was just leaving the bathroom at a McDonald's after she stopped there with friends to get a snack after school and was beaten very badly by an adult. The LAPD took the case. They turned it over to the DA's office, recommending felony child abuse. And the district attorney's office downgraded it to a misdemeanor. And according to the girl's mother, the DA's office won't even take their phone calls. They won't get their side of the story. In another case in Long Beach, there was a woman who was walking down the streets of downtown Long Beach at high noon, where a homeless man who was naked came up from behind her, lifted her skirt up, and pressed himself up against her, knocking her over. That was also regarded as a misdemeanor by the district attorney, and only after intense public pressure did he decide to change it to a felony. Your opponent in this race, Holly Mitchell, is an enthusiastic and vocal supporter of George Gascon in his bid for re-election, and said so much recently at an event in Marina Del Rey. Let's listen.
If you choose to hold me accountable to Mr. Gascon's work, so be it.
Your reaction to her support for George Gascon?
That clip alone should let people know that I am a better candidate for L.A. County. I will be the voice for L.A. County, and the victims will have a voice, because her doubling down on the support of George Gascon, who had no regard for the victim in Long Beach and the child in McDonald's. She's telling you who she is. If you vote for Holly, you get what you get. If you don't vote for Holly, or you don't vote at all, if you don't vote at all, you're voting for Holly. But if you don't vote for Holly and vote for Daphne Bradford, your public safety is going to come back for sure. And George Gascon has got to go. Both of them need to go, because they support each other. And look at our communities. Look at the county. The people are suffering. So you have an alternative. I am the best alternative to Holly Mitchell. I have been a victim. I went into the store to get some groceries, to buy a $2 watermelon. And it cost me $2,381 because somebody stole my catalytic converter. There are victims across the county, from catalytic converters to beatings in McDonald's to sexual assault on the street in broad daylight, and there's no accountability. The criminal just is released. And what can the police do? Take a report, file the paperwork, and by the time they get back to file the paperwork, the person is out on the street. We have to have some type of law and order with accountability. Not everybody needs to go to jail, but when it's so clear and in your face that it's an assault, whether it's sexual or beating a child, how can that not be a felony?
Last week, I spoke with former Senate Majority Leader Gloria Romero, who said that it is absolutely necessary for the female politicians in Southern California to go after George Gascon, specifically for what happened in Long Beach, when that woman was sexually assaulted in broad daylight. And instead of charging that man with a felony, he charged that man with the misdemeanor. And one of the misdemeanor charges that he charged him with for doing what he did was vandalism. He literally treated a woman's private parts as if it was a vending machine that got robbed. Holly Mitchell has not spoken out about this. From the point of view of being a woman in Los Angeles County, I would imagine that having your private parts be compared to a vending machine has to be one of the most misogynistic things a politician could possibly do. And her not speaking out about that, to me, is mind-blowing.
Holly told everybody in District 2 and everybody throughout L.A. County who she supports and where she stands. And it's with George Gascon. So the woman had to beg to get the proper representation and charges. And it was through the public outcry that helped her. She did take a stand, and she stood with George Gascon versus this woman. I will stand for every woman victim of any sexual assault when it's blatant and in your face like that. How could you not? Every woman should vote against Holly Mitchell just for that. The woman had to beg George Gascon. Why should we have to beg as women? We're already underrepresented. Now we have the power. Holly Mitchell had the power to stand up for the young lady, and she did nothing. I will stand up.
What do you make of the disrespect of not even reaching out to get the victim side of the story? Because that was apparent in both cases, in the McDonald's beating and in the sexual assault in Long Beach. Both victims said that the DA's office never reached out to them until it was in the news and until they were forced to do something about it. That was the only time that they ever actually returned a phone call. The mother of that child that got beaten at McDonald's said that she called the district attorney's office repeatedly, wanting to tell their side of the story, wanting to relay the facts as they knew them, and they wouldn't even get a call returned.
The DA clearly doesn't, George Gascon clearly doesn't represent all people. He's supposed to be the district attorney for L.A. County. He's supposed to hear both sides of the story. He gives his side of the story, and then that's it, and he doesn't give a damn? You have to have somebody that will listen to both sides of the story, represent all people, and he has to go. This is why he has to go. Holly Mitchell is standing with this guy. So you can't have a supervisor, L.A. County supervisor, supporting a DA that doesn't support women and children and victims. To not hear the mother's side of a story is sinful. You know, you can say it's disrespectful, you can say it's misogynistic, but it's something else. It's a lack of care for another human being, for a mother and a child. And a sexual assault victim just walking down the street. Women can't just walk down the street. and go get lunch, go to breakfast, go to work. You got to watch behind your back so you don't get assaulted from behind. It's in your face. And this man clearly does not care. He does not deserve to be the DA. He should have never been the DA. I didn't vote for him. If you look at what he did in San Francisco, he needs to go.
We're speaking with Daphne Bradford, who's a candidate for the LA County Board of Supervisors. You can get her online at daphnebradford.com. Daphne, if elected, you will essentially not only be the supervisor for your district, you'll effectively be the mayor for unincorporated parts of Los Angeles County within your district. We just listened to a news report from KCAL, from Pat Harvey, about an unincorporated portion of your district that has been taken over by a homeless encampment of RVs, where they dump their sewage, they dump human feces, they dump a bunch of things that should not be in the streets of Los Angeles County into the streets. It is a biological hazard over there that will ultimately end up in the ocean as soon as it rains. The homeowners have been appealing to Supervisor Holly Mitchell to do something about it. She did nothing about it. They finally got so frustrated they went to the news, and only after they went to the news did her office engage in the process at all. And one of the things that she's going to try to do is she's going to try to shift the enforcement duties from uniformed police officers to the Department of Public Works. These are people that don't have training in how to deal with these sorts of situations. They certainly don't have the ability to arrest anyone if they come across illegal activity, or to have cars impounded if they're not registered or they're parked illegally, whatever the case may be. She wants to give that very important job to people who are essentially lambs being led to the slaughter. What do you make of that decision and her inability to clean up these encampments consistently in the unincorporated parts of the district?
First of all, to take that responsibility from law enforcement and give it over to Public Works, I mean, it's a public safety disaster. It's dangerous. We have been going back and forth. I live in unincorporated Ladera Heights, and we have an encampment that we've been trying to get rid of for maybe 5 years. And so I understand what others are going through, and you have to work with the city, the county, the Department of Public Works, and all of this, and Department of Transportation. But you have to have law enforcement when they find the drugs, they find guns, they find all kind of things. You can't put that responsibility on to somebody else. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get killed. And that blood will be on the hands of L.A. County and the supervisor. It's ridiculous. But there has to be a collective partnership between law enforcement, the county supervisors, all of them, the county supervisor and all of the city, because the homeless and the RV encampment situation is so out of control. It's unbelievable what you have to go through to get an RV removed. So I think the power of the county, especially in District 2, I'm quite sure there's more that could be done that we don't know about, because they don't never tell the constituents and the residents everything of what it takes. We've been kept in the dark about a lot of stuff. One thing that I just recently worked on that would have been a public safety disaster for everybody is this idea and concept to provide $2 million to tear down the Marina Del Rey freeway to do a feasibility study. That's an absolute public safety disaster. And so you just have to talk to the constituents. They're making these decisions without letting residents know. So one of the first things that I will be working on, that top two, is that RV encampment removal, because we're dealing with it right now. We're trying to get RVs removed in unincorporated areas of the county. And where I live in Ladera Heights, it's a nightmare. So whatever red tape there is, they say there's not a lot of room to transfer the RVs to an LAPD garage. They have to clear them out. We have to come up with alternative decisions, alternative places that we can use to get these RVs off the street. But bigger than that, time you move an RV encampment, more RVs try to come in and move right where you just cleaned up. That shouldn't be allowed. So I can only promise and say that I will plan a comprehensive partnership to remove these RVs, because they're leaving these RV encampments, going into the neighborhoods, knocking on the neighbors' doors, sleeping in their backyards, taking their trash cans, and the quality of life deteriorates. If you want a better quality of life, vote Daphne Bradford on March 5th, 2024. Go to my website, DaphneBradford.com, volunteer, support, make a donation, because one thing Holly has, she has money, but you can't have money make the decisions for you, because this is where we are now. In special interest, this is where we are now. It's going to take the people to come together and support so we can work together to solve these issues.
Well, one of the groups that has supported Holly Mitchell throughout her career are public employee unions. But let's take what's going on right now with the encampments, and let's just think about what the future looks like if she gets what she wants and law enforcement doesn't clean them out, but it shifts over to the Department of Public Works. They don't have training on how to deal with violent confrontations. If they get stabbed, if they get shot, if they get sexually assaulted, if, God forbid, one of them gets murdered, there's going to be a massive lawsuit against the County of Los Angeles for putting someone who has no training in a situation that you knew was dangerous because you didn't want law enforcement to arrest people if they were caught doing illegal things. In addition to that, right now, fentanyl is the drug that's killing all these people on the streets. And fentanyl is so toxic and so dangerous, if you don't have the proper training on how to handle it, if you find it, you can die of a fentanyl overdose, fentanyl poisoning, just from having it in your hands. You don't have to ingest it. You don't have to shoot it into your body. Just handling fentanyl can kill you. These people don't have any training on how to deal with that. The lawsuits against the county, when you put them in these situations, it's going to produce mind-blowing numbers that the county right now doesn't have the money to pay for.
Vote Daphne Bradford, and I'll stop it. It shouldn't happen. That should not be allowed to happen because of what you just said. They don't have the proper training. It's too dangerous, and it's a public safety hazard for everybody involved. That should not be allowed to happen. Those responsibilities should be remain with law enforcement. They're trained to handle those situations. And how many times have you seen on the news where officers come into contact with just fentanyl and they're passing out and they need Narcan themselves? I don't understand why they don't care about the everyday common person, citizen, taxpayer, and putting a worker, a public works employee in that position. I don't understand that. When you know it's dangerous, they know it's dangerous. It shouldn't happen, and me as a county supervisor, I wouldn't allow it to happen.
Daphne Bradford, candidate for the L.A. County Board of Supervisors. You can get her online at DaphneBradford.com. Daphne, thanks so much for stopping by. It was a breath of fresh air.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Well, Alejo writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com, and he did some digging last night. And it turns out before Katie Porter was a congresswoman, before she was running for Senate, before she was a professor at UC Irvine, she did voiceovers on the 80s cartoon The Thundercats.
I think I remember eating my cereal in front of the television in the 1980s and watching that show with her on it.
Thundercats!
And Randy, if you missed yesterday's show and you want to go back and hear Katie Porter, what else Katie Porter had to say, you can do that quite easily.
That's right. You can hear that. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. In fact, I highly recommend, if you happen to live in Orange County in Katie Porter's district, you should share that one with just all your neighbors and friends. But go to the KABC app as well. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store, and you can listen live to this station anytime that you're outside the AM radio signal. And, of course, you can download every episode of this show, including the 1 o'clock hour from yesterday.
And coming up later on in the month, Randy, we're going on the road.
That's right. Come see us broadcast live Friday, November 17th at the brand new Gelson's West LA at West Edge on the corner of Olympic and Bundy. The Gelson's West LA at West Edge is open now. It's absolutely gorgeous there. They've got a beautiful craft beer, wine, and sushi bar that we're going to be broadcasting from live Friday, November 17th from noon to 3. So come on down. We'd love to see you.
It's Woo Wednesday.
Ric Flair.
It's Woo Wednesday, yeah, baby. Woo, 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 woo.
Now, Johnny, did Ric Flair ever face off against Hacksaw?
I'm sure they did at some point.
So it would sound like this.
Woo! Paul! Woo! Paul!
Pretty much. And Randy, tomorrow is Throwback Thursday.
That's right. If you've got a suggestion for the music that we play on tomorrow's show, your favorite artist, genre, or theme, something creative, something weird, something you've submitted in the past, but it hasn't gotten selected, it was a bad idea. It was probably a great idea, but we could only pick one per week. So resubmit that idea. But email us with the subject line, Throwback Thursday, and tell us what you want to hear. At 2:30, an hour from now, we will pick one lucky listener who chooses all the music for Throwback Thursday. So if you'd like to participate, send us an email now. Subject line Throwback Thursday to johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Creed at the Glen Helen Amphitheater on August 31st, 2024. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
It's time to open up the KABC Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
And surprise, surprise, today's edition takes us right back to Oakland.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
A therapist who lives and works in the city of Oakland received a phone call from the police, or at least they said it was the police, that said she missed a court date and owes $3,000 and needs to pay it right now. And she fell for it.
Oh, God. Was it a Nigerian prince?
For more on this sad tale, we go to KTVU, Fox 2.
An Oakland therapist is warning others after she was targeted in an impersonation scam. She says she received a call from someone claiming they were a police officer, and she ended up paying $3,000 in cash.
Oh, boy.
What kind of degree is required to be a therapist?
I think you got to have a BA.
I think it's more than that. I think you have to have a master's degree or a doctorate.
She might be good at solving other people's problems. She ain't good at solving her own problems. And I'll just say, for my friends that are in therapy, therapists are good at what they do, but therapists are also insane.
Yes, and they're also like chiropractors. You can't just go once and be fixed. You have to go 3 times a week for the rest of your life.
Through portals such as Zelle and PayPal. New at 6 tonight.
Sure, the Oakland police is calling people saying, can you PayPal me?
It is Oakland. They have a non-functioning 911 system. It's anything goes.
New at 6 tonight, KTVU's Crystal Bailey is here now with her warning. And Crystal, so why did she end up sending the money?
I think I can answer that. If the therapist was cashier.
If the cashier is dummy.
Pretty much.
But I'm sure This could happen to anybody. Let's all get aware to make sure this doesn't happen to us.
Well, the scammer in this situation was really taking advantage of the therapist's desire to help people and also stay out of trouble.
We're being real nice to this victim.
Very nice.
She says she was told she missed a court date and needed to pay to avoid jail time. This is a fairly common scheme federal officials have been warning against, specifically targeting doctors, nurses, and mental health professionals.
Anna Hirsch says she got a call on Wednesday from a phone number matching the city of Oakland.
They gave a police officer's name.
She was told she owed fees.
What, they said, my name is police officer?
Yes, this is Tackleberry from the local police department. Hello.
Hi, I'm Officer Bureaucracy.
The bureaucracy is real.
She was told she owed fees for missing a court appearance.
Wouldn't you remember that you were supposed to be in court?
Usually you don't forget those things.
I attempted to slow them down and ask questions, and they were attempting to comfort me.
Did she ask, tell me about your childhood?
How about this? Have you been accused of a crime recently?
They were attempting to comfort me in that and slow down with me, but kept aggressively telling me that I was in a bad situation because I had missed a court case as a witness, which is a thing that therapists can be called to do.
The person on the phone.
We charge witnesses for not showing up to court?
Wouldn't they just call you or send you an email or send you a letter through the mail?
The person on the phone said if she didn't pay, she could be arrested. She says...
In Oakland?
You can blow up the basketball court in Oakland and no one cares.
Oh, my God. They melted the basketball court.
As it has been said...
It's wild, wild west out here.
But sure, if you missed a court date as a witness, you're going to get arrested.
She says she was told to go to the Oakland Police Administration building downtown and wait to be escorted inside. So she complied, still on the phone with them.
And they named things like a contempt of court and...
They probably have a whole script.
What country do you think they're in?
And they named things like a contempt of court and a failure to appear and citation numbers. They asked me to write them down.
The line cut out after Hirsch sent $3,000 via Zelle, PayPal, and Apple Cash.
Wait, she used all three of those?
No red flags.
Because if you send more than 1,000 on any of those, there's a limit or it looks suspicious. So at no point did she realize until she hit send the third time that maybe this isn't on the up and up.
And Oakland won't enforce any law of any kind. However, if you're a witness and you miss your court appearance, they come down on you like a ton of bricks.
The line cut out.
And they have you show up at a police administration building, but don't actually go inside. While you're standing outside the building, can you wire us $3,000 from your bank?
3 different banks.
The line cut out after Hirsch sent $3,000 via Zelle, PayPal, and Apple Cash.
What do you think they were saying on the other end of that phone when they hung up?
Can you believe how dumb this bleep is?
Which had a profile picture appearing as the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Oh, I broke down crying. Somehow I think in that moment it became clear to me what happened.
The Better Business Bureau tracks scams like these.
When we're thinking of government agencies, you're thinking of secure websites that actually have a payment platform and that are not sending you directly to PayPal.
These are ways they identify impersonation scams. Take a pause if someone is reaching out unsolicited for personal information or money, pressuring you to act immediately, asking you...
How do you get all the way to being a therapist and not know that?
I'll tell you. When I was in college, my roommate was, actually this was after college, she was a criminal defense attorney. And when you're a baby criminal defense attorney, you deal with relatively minor cases, but all of your clients are not only guilty, but obviously guilty, but they're also pathological liars, so they profess their innocence. So she would get all of these files, and she would bring them back to the house in front of the television watching American Idol, eating ice cream straight out of the carton. And she would go through the files, and my job was to come up with stories that a jury might believe so they would be acquitted. And we would come up with these wild stories that she would present to the juries, and she would lose every single time. And then at a certain point, the light bulb just went off in both of our heads, and we realized we're wasting our time coming up with stupid stories that are obviously untrue. If you want to win, all you have to do is fill the jury with teachers, social workers, counselors, and engineers, because those four groups will believe literally anything you tell them. You don't even have to try. You just have to go up there and present some idiotic theory and look sympathetic or make your client look sympathetic, and they will believe every word that's coming out of your mouth.
Asking you to send money through untraceable forms of payment or threatening you with jail time. And despite feelings of embarrassment and shame victims may have in this kind of crime, Hirsch is speaking up to help others.
I've even had people coming out of my friend circle saying this happened to me and I felt alone until you spoke up.
She's a hero.
Is she trying to use this for publicity for her practice?
If you've been scammed too, call me. I'll give you a low rate.
She says she's spoken to her financial institutions and started a GoFundMe, which helped earn back what was stolen from her.
Wait a second. We're doing GoFundMes for someone that got scammed out of $3,000 that was a very obvious scam?
I'll tell you, anytime I see a GoFundMe on social media, unless the person was murdered or they were diagnosed with some tropical disease, it's always for something like this.
Is the title, I Fell for the Oldest Trick in the Book?
I definitely feel very violated, and I'm having to work with that feeling of like almost wanting to like wash the sound of that person's voice off of me.
She is going to be thinking about that every day for a long time.
She's going to be in therapy.
Now, what was it that made you believe that this person was actually a police officer when he was demanding you give him $3,000 over Apple Pay?
There was a fork in the road at some point, and you could have gone down one of two paths, and this is the one you chose. Do we have a link to the GoFundMe?
We do not.
I'm not going to put it out so people can give her money. I'm just curious to see how much she's raised.
According to the report, she got her $3,000 back.
I wonder if it cut off at $3,000 or she's continuing to accept money.
Can you see I need more for emotional suffering?
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Caesar writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com with a request and a comment. The request is another meeting between Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao and the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
And then we went to sleep.
And then here's the comment. I don't know if you guys know this, but the Spanish word for donkey is burro. So maybe when Mayor Sheng Tao says the bureaucracy is real, she's talking about the donkey shows in Tijuana.
The bureaucracy is real.
I guess it's a possibility.